Well, that sucked. YelLOWstone 2020, Barrett Jackson, Wednesday. I would say epic fail. Yeah, it sucked. I drove YelLOWstone up to Barrett Jackson last week. It's been sitting here. So just trying to kind of clarify all this. Richard bought the truck. He bought it probably October. And with Barrett Jackson, and then those guys all went to Saudi. Actually, he bought it before that because I got my money in September from them when I was out at C10s in the park. So September, and it just sat here. No problems. I'm sure the batteries weren't the best at this point, but drove it up there, and it just worked out for him because it's still here in my yard, and Barrett's, 40 minutes away. He had a good idea and he had a good plan with the truck, but it was here and shipping it back and whatever. So we take it to Barrett. I get with the contact there, super rad guy, aka Jeff, and drive it up there last Thursday, I believe, and drop it off. Hey, you got any problems? Let me know. They pull the batteries and to keep them on charge. So they position it, they put it away, and it's sitting there. I walked by it on, I didn't go Monday, but I went Tuesday. I saw it yesterday and then went up there this morning and, just saw it. Didn't really think much about it. If I could do it over, I would either get involved a little earlier or, get involved a little earlier. So we're hanging out and, I'm thinking 411. I know the lot number. I'm going to watch this thing kind of in the staging area. Well, one of the bars in the hangout area, you can see where staging area 1 and staging area 2, or however you want to look at it, the kind of an outside staging area and an inside getting ready to go in. I don't see it. I walk over there. I see they're up to like 405. So I'm like, all right, it's getting ready. And then I don't see it again. So at this point, I walk over around the corner where they're, staging the truck or where it's parked. It's right next to Adam's Polish Boost over at the Barrett, and they're all working on it. And so at that point, they're like, hey, it's not, it's turning over, but it's not firing. And I'm like, okay, so what do we got here? And I don't hear the fuel pump. So I call Big Ten Bowman. I'm like, what's the deal? What are you thinking? He goes, that computer, if you've taken those batteries out, you sometimes have to reload that program. So sit down, we start reloading it, and trying to look at it, looking at all the fuses. And the bottom line is when you turn the key to ignition, you should hear that fuel pump, and you hear it, and it's not kicking on. The air compressors are kicking on for the AccuAir. Pull that main line, and so we know, hey, we're not going to be disturbed by, compressors running. We're going to hear the fuel pump. Still no fuel pump. Undo the seat, the front seat, get underneath where the CPU is, start looking at relays, trying to jump relays, and just going over everything, trying to jump relay, we got nothing. Trying to jump another relay, we got nothing. And you could tell it's getting down to where the truck should be in the staging area, and if not rolling up to the stage, really. So I'm like, I'm kind of bummed, and Bowman's doing something. I can kind of tell he's like driving, and I'm like, shit. So I'm like, all right, dude, thanks. We're going to figure this thing out. Immediately call Johnny G, and I'm like, Johnny, what do you think? And he goes, you got to reset that throttle positioning sensor, TPS. So when you go into the Holly Wizard, the computer, it's got a couple options there. So I was kind of rebooting it. Well, then right there is the TPS, auto reset. Boom, you push it, you push down the throttle 2 times, you come back off. So I do it, and I can't remember if it was the first or second time, but obviously if there is a second time, it probably wasn't the first time. And I do it a second time, and you can hear at that point briefly the fuel pump kick on. So I'm like, all right, cool. Well, then I believe probably because the batteries and or the jump boxes are all low and they're getting drawn down from us continuing to try to start the truck, we don't have enough juice to keep everything running, especially the fuel pump. So at that point, no fuel, no start, no run, no auction, no block. They run it through with a picture. Yeah. 15K. I don't know what it would have done. I really don't. I think it does at least 23. I would say today things started heating up. I wanted to see it on the block just to see. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Now we're not going to see it. Would it have done more than that? 25, 26, 28, 30? I don't know. I mean, it takes a few guys. Would it have gotten the most, 3, 4 guys bidding on it? I don't know. I do know that once it got posted that 15K, everybody's shitting their pants. And they're like, I would have bid on it. I would have bid on it. I didn't even know it was for sale. If you didn't know it was for sale, I mean, that's crazy. But, and I'll be honest with you, I thought at one point, multiple times, not at one point, but multiple times I've said, if that sumbitch goes at 16, I'm going to buy it, right? Well, ironically enough, I've got 25 texts. Did you buy it? Well, no, because I was working on it to try to get it going, and that would obviously be Shady Acres if it was sabotaged to buy it. So Richard's buddy, who I would say has done a few deals with him once I talked to him, bought it. He came over after it's all said and done, and I'll play that. So I was able to interview him. I think his name is Sean. I can't remember right now offhand because I'm just recording this up in the studio. But I've got the audio here. I'll pull it and I'll put it with this little recording. But I just thought I'd put it out there. Unfortunately, when you see 15K, that's not true. It is true. It's what it sold for. That's a fact. But it didn't get run over the block. I'll say that. I did talk to Richard. He texted me pretty quick. He's like, give me a call. I'm like, oh shit, your big brother's calling you. And I told him, here's what happened. And I told him I felt bad. It didn't start and make it up the block. And he's funny. He's a little frustrated with it. But he said, people like watching me lose money. So he knows, and I don't know the auction world. Hindsight, I wish I'd have been there a little earlier and got on that a lot earlier to make sure it was cycling through, starting and going up and down from getting the AccuAir, because you got to be on a 3 to turn that thing around, and it sits, pretty at 2 and looks really good at 1. But I would have cycled that through and done that, and I don't know. I don't know if that's something where tonight, being Wednesday night, this will drop, by the time you guys hear it on Thursday, but it'll, I don't know if that's one of those things where, they can say, hey, we've got a clean scratch on 411. We got some issues, but we're going to run it again here later. And, but I can only imagine that this isn't JV. This is not JV. This is, this is the NFL. This is the big daddy of them all. We had our opportunity and, it didn't work out. So, YelLOWstone, unfortunately, has delivered, multiple times for me. It puts me through a little bit of a few headaches, but didn't do it. So if you see 15K, there's a little asterisk there because it didn't run on the block. I'll never know. We'll never know what it would have went for. If it would have went for 16, if it would have went for 25, if it would have went for 32, if it went for 35. I do not think it would have went for 40. I think it would have went for over 20. That's where I'll put it. So, that's it. Let's listen to the new owner, and that's a little quick blurb on YelLOWstone Barrett Jackson 2020. I should be getting the OBS talk out tomorrow, or when you guys hear this, it'll be today, and that's Chris Coddington. And then next Tuesday, C10 talk, I will do some interviews from Barrett. So I'll have time to put all those together, and that will drop next Taco Tuesday. Hopefully you're getting a chance to listen to Mark Giambavo from Creative Rod and Customs this week, checking him out because he's the man behind a ton of rad C10s. 3 of them. I did see one comment. The guy's like, dude, the 68 is one of my favorite trucks. I didn't put it together who was the builder, but now he knows it's Mark Giambavo. So check out Mark and check out Creative Rod and Customs, episode 162. And then Chris Coddington, OBS talk should drop tomorrow or today, however you want to look at it, and Thursday. And we'll be back next week. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the support. That's it. Have a good week. Late. Well, holy shit. Mr. Sean Nolan from Minnesota just walked over to the Stone, and he's the new owner. kind of hectic. So I knew that this, and we'll get into it on the pod, but there was some issues with the batteries, and the bottom line is the batteries, what we can gather, got put back in, and then the Holley, the TPS, the throttle positioning sensor, had to be reset, and the tune, and unfortunately for Richard, it's a little too late, and so Sean Nolan out of Minnesota got himself a pretty killer truck here. Sean, welcome to C10 Talk, and congratulations on Yellowstone.
Thank you.
So tell us what happened.
Well, I just was watching it, and then it didn't go through up there, and all of a sudden they flashed it on the screen, and no truck, and it was going too cheap, so I thought I better buy it.
So he got it for $15K. Who knows what it would have went for? Woulda, coulda, shoulda on the block. It didn't run on the block. So that's the thing is. I had kind of been waiting for it to kind of come into the staging area. Didn't see it. Came around to where it was by the Adams Polish booth, and they were working on it, some battery packs and things like that, and we just couldn't hear the fuel pumps kick on. So then made some calls to Johnny G's Garage, Big Ted Bowman, and by the time we got it somewhat dialed in, it was about time to run it over the block, and then about 5 minutes later, Sean comes walking up, and he's like, "Hey, give me the keys." No, he wasn't. But so, what do you think you'll do with this thing?
I don't know. I'll take and use it. We go up in northern Minnesota. There's a place in Grand Rapids, and a bunch of us take old campers, and they all got little round campers and fiberglass things. Well, I figured this would be kind of cool to drive this up there.
Well, one thing that you'll find out real quick when you drive this thing, the first time I ever did take it to Dino's, probably about 4 years ago, my son and I were driving it, and I'll never forget on one of the intersections over there in Phoenix, this younger kid was like, "That is rad as fuck," and so you're going to get a lot of, hey, hell yes, rad truck, cool. So if you want to turn a head or two, you're going to do this. And I'll help you with any issues you might have, but okay. It sounds like you might leave it here for a while.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it here probably until Bike Week, and then I don't have to rent a camper. I can come to stay in here for Bike Week here and then bring it home in April.
So what do you do? What's your story?
I get a wrecking yard up in Minnesota. My family's owned since '56, and then I take and just buy and sell cars. So that's basically my office is my rollback and haul cars and stuff all day long. So
what's your go-to? What's your fastball? What kind of cars you like?
I do a little of everything. So like I said the other day, I've looked how many I junked, how scrap ones I did, over 400, almost 500 scrap cars. I didn't even use the used cars I sell. So.
How big is the yard that you guys have, or do you have multiple?
No, it was one. He started in '56 and it was 100 acres. But now with the price, when it went up real high, it's down. My brother bought us, all the rest of us, our brothers out. So there's probably 5 to 7,500 cars. A lot of old stuff, because I've been coming down here since '91 bringing old stuff back. So.
Well, in the Minnesota, to be honest with you, you guys have rotten sheet metal, great interior. We have shitty interior with good sheet metal. So I'm always saying, if you're going to get married, team up with somebody from Minnesota, because we can build some really nice trucks, and especially square bodies. We got the metal, we just need your interior.
Yep, that's correct, because everything, all of the rubbers and stuff are good up there, but the bodies are gone to the door handles.
Well, I think we got a new friend here, Mr. Sean Nolan, and congrats, and we'll be in touch on this truck.
Thank you.
All right, guys, YelLOWstone, $15K. Who would have known, but I told everybody I'd buy it back up to about $16,500. So it's probably a good thing I was out here trying to get this thing running and not inside, because that would be probably look kind of bad if I bought it back and it didn't run. So I drove it up here. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see what it would have done. It would have been exciting, but Sean's a good guy, and I think he's going to have a lot of fun with it. So C10 Talk, YelLOWstone.